Sometimes adjusting the tracks is not enough. So I've chosen an example here where things are going to be a little bit difficult. So for example, let's take a look at this point. This point is actually going to go out of frame and not be visible for a couple of frames in the middle of the shot. So if I were to create a point here, and maybe I'll just do this on each of these, just so I can show you how I'd probably track through a shot. I chose the worst possible color, it's blue on blue, but anyway, I'll highlight these and I'll press track all. Now when I go back to the first frame, some of these might be slightly off when the jellyfish deformed. So I'll correct these using adjustment. It might need a few more adjustments to make sure that this is perfect. Close enough. So one thing to know is that track adjustment is really just another animation track on top of the actual tracking keyframes. So it's not going to be enough in some cases. Let's take a look down here at this point. So I'm going to try to track this point specifically, knowing that it's going to go in some strange places, disappear, and come in and out of the frame. So I'll begin by tracking, and that's not working so well. It got caught and it went down the jellyfish tail. So I can go ahead and, seeing that there's this downward motion here, I can attempt to adjust this. However, the problem is it's going to continue to follow that downward motion because this adjustment isn't telling it to track from here. This adjustment is just an additional animation track on top of that downward motion that's already there. So that brings us to the concept of track refinement. If you see this red bar, that means that you've made adjustments without having pressed the track all button to try to do a track refinement. Track refinement is going to look at each of these crosshair keyframes, and it's going to try to track with each of these and try to find its way back to the next crosshair all through the entire sequence. So I've just made an adjustment here, and just for example, maybe I'll do another one here and go somewhere else in the shot, see if I can see that little thing. And let's just play this back, and you'll see that this isn't tracking well, it's kind of fighting, it's not working. But now I'm going to press track all, which is going to launch track refinement. So I'll select this so you can see it. And now when I play this back, this is green, meaning that it's done all the thinking it can with all the information it has. And it's doing a much better and smoother job. So again, I'll make a couple adjustments. And you'll notice that it's turned red between this keyframe and that keyframe, meaning that because there's a new adjustment, it has more information from this part of the shot to that part of the shot. And when I press track all, it's going to recalculate and fix that area to the best of its ability. So again, I can move through between some of these adjustments and just try to give it a little bit more information. And again, I'll press track all. So for a point like this, that's kind of a nightmare to track because it's behind a whole bunch of semi-transparent swirling objects and the tracker doesn't really know what you're going for. Track adjustment and track refinement are a great way to narrow in and make that track better. The short summary is that as long as you can see the point, just keep adding adjustment keyframes and then keep pressing track all and the track is going to get better. Another thing to point out is that you can invalidate all of this and recalculate whenever you change your tracking mode down here. So for example, you might be best off using extremely accurate, which is just a more accurate tracker that's going to use the same adjustment keyframes that you've already created. I'll press track all again to retrack using the extremely accurate mode. So if we take a look, I think that's looking much better. It actually might be a totally valid strategy to track using the accurate 1.6 mode, which is fast, and then get all of your adjustments figured out, and then as a final step, go through and use extremely accurate to make the track perfect. So what if something is already perfect and you don't want it to be changed and you don't want it to retrack when you press track all? You don't want the refinement process to affect it again. Well, that's easy enough. We'll just say that maybe this point, after we make that change, is completely perfect. Well, we have this padlock icon down here. You can click this, lock selected, and now this point simply will not participate in the tracking process at all. The lock is a safety feature. So for example, you'll notice here, if I lock all of these and then I press track, nothing's going to happen because there are no points that are actually available to be tracked. And of course, if you want to unlock something, you have the little unlock padlock, and you can work with them again or change them.